But as we continue tonight, the question must be asked, so why is it that most teenagers do not have what Mr. Butler called the joy that has no end? And I would suggest that, in part, the reason this is true is because most teenagers are alone. They hardly know themselves, and they certainly do not know their peers. And they go through some of the most important, fundamental years of their lives isolated, incredibly busy, scheduled to the nines, and completely alone. And all the while, they're surrounded by people and opportunity. For most of us, this process of becoming known is terrifying. If you think you're terrified by it, imagine what a 14-year-old feels by it. To be known means that somebody has to know when I laugh that hard, I snort. Or when I get nervous, I begin to sweat or shake, or my whole body begins to drip. The more intimately, they struggle with perfection. And they have a deep, deep fear of failure. They desperately want to fit in and be accepted. And all of this robs them of their joy. Conversely, being known, truly known, yields freedom in their lives. Freedom to play, freedom to laugh, freedom to create and to succeed, freedom to fail. Being known frees them to love, and in return, be loved. Becoming known gives rise to the joy that has no end. At Pacifica, my colleagues, my staff, and I, recognize that everyday experiences provide opportunities for our young adults to be known. Our students become known through relationships with their mentor teachers, in class through their discussions with their friends, by participating in the school's culture, and by serving others. They also come to know themselves as they form beliefs about what they think about the world in which they live, experience and respond to personal failure, develop community with a diverse group of friends, and learn to put their trust and hope in Christ. This process of becoming known provides students with glimpses of joy. Here's the kicker. If we give them enough glimpses of this type of joy, we just might change their life. This is why we are committed to living life with students. This is why one of the last things I ask a teacher before I hire them is, do you like teenagers? And will you spend time with them? You laugh, but think about your teachers. Most of them do not. So, as we run on dirt roads, or dance in smelly dining halls, or engage students outside of room 201, we, my colleagues and I, are expectant that every day our experiences will produce in us the joy that has no end. And this year we've had so many of these moments, and I'd like to share 3 of them with you. So my first glimpse of life-changing joy came while Tate was running down a dirt road. Tate, who's a freshman, along with his cross-country teammates, were making history at one of the school's first varsity-level competitions. Tate had not run competitively before. This was his first time. And on this day, he was racing not against 14-year-olds, but 17 and 18-year-olds. Now, Coach Sizemore, who is here today, can I get a shout-out to Coach Sizemore? Coach Sizemore had pushed these athletes for months, drilling them and working them and preparing them athletically, and they were ready to go. But equally important is they were prepared mentally and spiritually and emotionally. She read all their summer reading. Why? So at practice she could engage them in conversations that mattered. She ate lunch with them. She poured her life into them. And at this moment in their life, they were known. They knew each other. And they knew their coach. And being known is powerful. As the team crossed the finish line, most of them achieving their personal record, the best they've run. This is their second varsity race. Most of them are freshmen, all PRing in a varsity race. They looked around and realized Tate wasn't there. Without hesitation, all 17 literally start running back along the track, trying to look for Tate, and then they find him. There he is! And as he crosses, they begin to cheer and applaud him. And then, without hesitation, they follow him, running alongside their teammate all the way to the end of the finish line. As he passed the finish line, there was cheers and screaming and joy from his teammates, from his family, from people that were just standing there. Tell me that 14-year-old's life didn't just change. Tell me every person at that finish line's life did not just change. Now, the great thing about joy is you don't have to hold on to it. You can give it away. Karen Munoz was standing at that finish line. She didn't move. She stood there, cheering for every single student athlete from every school until the last one finished that line. Friends, joy. The joy that has no end. The second glimpse of life-changing joy came in a smelly dining room in the mountains. Every year, we take our students on an all-school retreat. All the staff, administration, students, and we spend months upon months upon months planning this retreat. But the one thing this year we did not plan for was for rain. So sure enough, the first night of the all-school retreat, pouring. I mean, just buckets, spraying everywhere. And to boot, there was so much fog you could hardly see your hand right in front of your face. So our plans to have an incredible game of capture the flag, followed by a night sitting around the campfire, and then to top it all off at a nightcap in the swimming pool, was ruined. And there we were, 65 mostly strangers, we've only known each other for 4 weeks, sitting in a smelly dining hall. I do not recall who suggested this, but before I knew it, we were producing an impromptu lip sync contest. Here's an idea: 65 strangers, let's have them sing and dance in front of each other. Now, you heard Hayden, we have very smart people at this school, and that was the best we could come up with. We were in serious, serious trouble. But then something absolutely beautiful happened. Our teachers, those who care deeply about their students, came alongside them. I saw each one of them. They literally put their hands around them and they huddled up. Before I knew it, they had chosen music. They had choreographed a dance. And they were literally performing in this smelly room. But if you stopped, if you took a moment to look, like you should right now around this room, you would have saw smiles like you've never seen on teenagers. You would have saw joy like you've never seen in a teenager's life. You would have saw freedom. In fact, for the parents I'm looking at right now, I have mental images of each one of your students dancing as if nobody was even watching them. Now, the orange team was the final team to go that night. I get more love on the orange team for that. And halfway through, they stopped and they started grabbing people. And literally, they were pulling us up there. And before I knew it, I looked around the room. Everybody was dancing. Teenagers, teachers, we're all dancing. A group of teenagers, completely untethered from all the things I was just talking about. This fear, this fitting in, this being cool. It was all gone. And we were just there, being who God intended us to be. And in the process of becoming known, we were receiving the joy that has no end. And the last glimpse I want to share with you tonight about life-changing joy that happens at Pacifica. It happened while I was giving a tour with a local head of school. We gave 150 tours this year. It's an incredible thing. So many of you came, and thank you for doing that. And during my tour, I stopped in Algebra 2, and Karen was there, and I asked Karen to come out on the landing and have a conversation with us. It's important to know Karen's a freshman. This is the first time I've asked him to come out and have a conversation with a group of adults. Not just adults, two heads of school. So I threw him a softball. Karen, how's it going? What do you think about Pacifica? Man, this guy's face lights up. I love this place. I'm curious what he's going to say. This is the best school I've ever been to. My teachers are incredibly smart and they like me. They want to spend time with me. I'm involved, I have friendships. This is amazing. Now, as head of school, this sings that your students love where they are. They're becoming who they are. And then I went on to ask Karen, excuse me, we're a liberal arts and science school, so we spend a lot of time trying to help students connect subjects, right? We don't want you to live in silos and live bifurcated lives, right? So how can you tell me that you're learning one thing in one area that's connecting to another thing, right? So he puts his head down, thinking about it, he looks at it and says, okay, so in science, we're learning about Newton's first law of motion. And for those of you who don't have that to memory, neither did I, so I had to ask Karen, so what is that again? He said, well, sure, Mr. Neal, anything in motion will stay at motion until acted on by an outside force. Anything at rest will stay at rest until something acts on it. Okay, so how does that connect, Karen? Well, in English, we're reading Ovid's Metamorphoses. And in this book, we find Orpheus. And Orpheus' wife dies. In the process of her dying, he goes to the underworld and convinces this man to let him bring his wife back with him. And he goes on and on and on. And if you're like me, I'm wondering, how in the world are you connecting these two things? He said, Mr. Young, before I came to Pacifica, I thought death was final. That was it. It was unmovable, it was unchangeable, it was static. You died. But then I'm reading this story, and it's beautiful. It's an incredible story. And I'm taken with the idea that death doesn't have to be the final thing. And then I'm in science class, and I'm learning, we have a natural law that says something will stay at rest until acted on by an outside force. So I'm not so sure I think that death is final anymore. So Kieran, this is really incredible. I don't know how you're making these connections. I hope you're feeling the joy of this. This is incredible. Teenagers don't usually do this. And so I asked him one final question. I said, Kieran, you're a young man in the 21st century. Why in the world does this old book and what you're experiencing have any relevance in your world today? And as I asked him, I realized, man, most of us can't answer this question. This is an awful thing to do to him. And so what does he do? He literally puts his hands in his face. And then he looks up. It was stunned. Just this clarity. He zeroes right into me. He says, Mr. O'Neill, teenagers are dead. What did he mean by that? Teenagers are so taken with their culture, fitting in, finding their place in the world, understanding who are they and who is God and how these things connect. So he tells me teenagers are dead. And they're going to remain this way until acted on by an outside force. And Pacifica is that outside force. You brought some of the best educators in the world, in the country, and you brought them into this place and they love us, and they care for us, and they're in a relationship with us. And you brought the Christian faith, and you are literally breathing new life into us. You are resurrecting us from the dead. We didn't start Pacifica solely to educate the next generation, to think and to use their intellect and to develop their skills to change this world, although they will. Goodness, Karen, my gosh. But equally as important, to give them a taste of joy that might radically transform every community that they come in contact with for the rest of their lives. It truly, truly is an honor to serve our families in this community as the head of Pacifica. I'm so grateful for your presence here this evening. And together, we are making an important and profound difference in the world in which we live. God bless you, and enjoy the rest of your evening.